David Orazzetti, President. Don Mitchell, Chair, Sault College Board of Governors. And Kevin Callan, Keynote Speaker. Kevin, also known as the Happy Camper, is the author of 19 books, his latest being Another Bend in the River, the Happy Camper's memoir. He is an award-winning writer and repeated keynote speaker at outdoor industry events across North America. Kevin is also a graduate from Sault College's Forestry Technician program in 1985 and was nominated by Sault College for an Ontario Colleges Premiers Award in 2023. A regular educational and informative guest on several television morning shows and CBC radio, he has won multiple film awards and writes columns for both Paddling Magazine and Explore Magazine. Kevin was named one of the top 100 modern-day explorers by the Canadian Geographical Society, inducted into the Milton's, Ontario Walk of Fame, and named Patron Paddler for Paddle Canada. Please welcome Kevin.
Wow! Wow! I think my mother wrote that. I think. Before we get started, I'll tell you a story about my mother. So I was in Toronto giving a presentation, and she showed up. She's 90, she's Scottish, she's 3 feet tall, and she gives you attitude the entire time. So I love her. And after the presentation, I went to sign books, and I went back to where the area was, and there was over 200 people lined up. I went, what's going on? There's my mother signing my books. I go, Mom, what are you doing? She goes, you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me. This is a huge honor to be here. I mean, really, I learned so much after graduating here in 1984. I learned so much about life and about a career. I worked in forestry, fish and wildlife, outdoor education. I was a wilderness guide, a writer, an author. But it started as a backup. What happened was I was a good drummer in a band in high school. I was going places. I was an all-girls punk band. I was not a girl. And they would chain me to the drum set. And I thought we were really good. So we were asked to play at the Christmas assembly. Now, we had to change our name. Our name was Santa Syphilis at the time. And sorry, that's the name. It was a punk band. And we had to change it to Bran Muffins. So we got on stage, and my parents showed up. And it was great. We played. I got home. My dad was a professional boxer, very big guy. And he sits me down. Son, hate to say this, you need a backup. Why? You're not a good drummer. So he goes, what do you want to do? I said, well, I want to be educated in the north, which ended up to be the Sioux, right? And he goes, why? So I love the landscape. I love the people. So I moved up, and I finished school. And I got to say, it was a bit of a dreamer. I wasn't the best student in the world. But what happened is the college opened the door, and I went crashing through it. And I spent an incredible career doing incredible things. And there's one point in my life where I knew I was going somewhere. One thing I'd like to tell everybody that's graduating, remember to be yourself, not a chameleon. Always be yourself, true to yourself. That's what I found out about being in the wilderness so much. You are true to yourself in the wilderness, right? There's no facade. So I got a big hit in my career. I got a best-selling book called The Happy Camper, and the media loved it. That's how I became the Happy Camper, which means I have to be happy all the time. Anyway, so I got on TV, and my colleague said, this is a big break, Kevin. Do not mess this up. You're on national news right across Canada on this book. No problem, no problem. So, I didn't really want to talk about the book. I just want to, excite people about being in the wilderness. So I got all these gadgets on the table. And one gadget was a camp gadget called a Whiz Easy. So women use this so they can urinate standing up. I don't know much about it myself, but I had it on the table. I thought it was pretty cool. And so the hosts come in, and they're like, okay, we're about to start. And the female host said, this is very exciting. She loved camping, was really excited. The male host said, I really don't like camping. Let's just get this over with. What? I don't really like him. I don't like him at all. Remember, be yourself, right? So right across Canada, live. He picks up the first item. It's the Whiz Easy. And he goes, Kevin, what's this? I go, oh, it's a whistle. Give it a try. The female host tells him what it is. He spits out. He's furious, absolutely furious with me, right? And I get home. My colleagues go, Kevin, what were you thinking? This is your big break, and you do that. Why? Well, he didn't like camping. He deserved what he got. So I got home, and I got all these calls from all the media, and I was on TV, radio. In 4 days, I made $8,000. During that time, my wife at the time and I were trying to have a child through in vitro, and we didn't have the money because you needed to pay for it then. And well, in 4 days, I made $8,000 being on TV, and my daughter Kyla was born. Never change your character. Be yourself. Go into the wilderness, and that will prove as well. You always are who you are out there. Yes, you need to be skilled. You need to be experienced, but trust your gut. Always trust your gut. A few years back, I was taking some troubled youth out on a canoe trip, and I messed up. We went from A to B and back to A. You usually do it in a loop, so when they do a loop, they don't know where they are, so they don't escape, right? So we went out, and Jason wasn't doing well. He had past drug issues. He was off the drugs, but he also had bipolar, and he was a very anxious guy. A lot of people didn't like him, and he wanted to go home. And I knew that he would know how to get home if we went back to A. So I went to the counselor, and I said, he's going to boot tonight. He's going to escape. No, he's fine. No, he's not fine. My gut is saying something's going to happen. So sure enough, we made camp, and at midnight, students came to my tent. Yeah, Jason's gone. I'm making $60 a day, okay? So I went, oh, come on. So, of course, I do the survival thing, and I go to rescue him, and I'm paddling across the moonlight, and I see him ahead of me, and then I realize that's not what I should be doing. I should let the wilderness cure his soul. Let him spend time out here and think about what's going on in his life. So I held back. And he paddled on, he portaged 3 portages in, and the sun was coming up, and he stood there on the portage, looking at me, and he sat down and started crying. So I went up to him, I said, hey man, are you all right? No, I've messed up, Kevin. Okay, that's fine. Do not judge, by the way. I never judged him. But I did say, hey, you know what? I'm making $60 a day, and if I don't bring you back, I'll lose my job. Could you come back with me? Okay, Kevin, I like you. I'll do that. Yeah. Went back. 2 years later, I'm in Algonquin Park, and I see a bunch of youth at risk guys with a leader, and it was him. He was leading them through the woods. He actually went to college and university, finished it all, and actually had a program where he takes them out. So always trust your gut. Okay, so another point I'll just make before I leave the stage. Yes, be yourself, but also motivate yourself and never give up and never listen to the negative, always the positive. No problems, just solutions. So a few years back, my buddy and I decided to do this canoe trip in Algonquin called the Meanest Link. It circumnavigates Algonquin Park. 102 portages, 68 kilometers of portaging. I think it took us, it was 426 miles or kilometers, whatever. It was a long trip. The bugs are bad. Bears chased us every moment. And what happened was the winners of this race, they call it, was these 2 women, amazing women. They did it in 24 hours. It took us 3 weeks. But what happened along the way is we didn't do it the way everybody thought we should do it. We were older, and we did food drops. And some people said, well, you shouldn't do food drops. Well, is there a rule that we can't do food drops? No, there's no rule. Well, I'm going to do food drops. So during that time, I was putting out a signal on CBC radio, but I didn't know there was a following because I couldn't get a signal back. By the time we were halfway through, 11,000 people were following us on social media because it was really cool. It was fun because we're cheating a lot. And so what happened was, I found out there was 5 individuals that despised me for doing this way. They actually called me the Lucifer of Algonquin on social media. And that caused debate, right? So we get to Cedar Lake, and I get to my second food drop. We're halfway through this trip. My buddy's not having a good time. His hip's gone, his knee's gone, his attitude's gone. And we open up the food drop box, and the food's there, but the whiskey is gone. There's no whiskey. Now, who would steal someone's whiskey, right? So I get on CBC radio and I said, for the love of God, we're going to die. We need help here. We need some whiskey. And I did it as a joke. To be quite honest, I did it as a joke. Not knowing, too, by the way, that many people were listening. For the next few days, almost every second or third portage, there was a flask of whiskey at the portage with a sign on it. Way to go, Kevin and Annie. Keep going. Don't give up. By the time we got to the end near Huntsville, there was helicopters flying over us. There was bush planes. There was the OPP all there. And there was billboards on the trees. Don't give up. We didn't give up. I wrote a book about it. It became a bestseller. Thank you, Miigwech.